Hey guys, Micah from Micah Doodles. I'm going to be drawing a Dodge SRT10, so let's get started here. Basically, I'm going to start this with this, basically tracing the outline shape of this Dodge. Just for this, I've kind of already penciled it in, so I'm just going to draw that in right now for you guys. Get that in, and my tires in here. Again, when I ink in all mine, I always put in my dark black areas first. Go. Just putting in the tire like this. Again, I'm cambering my tires because I want this thing to be leaning into kind of like giving it more of an aggressive stance, so it's leaning into the turn. So that's why it looks like that. So as soon as I got my outline down, I'm basically going to go in and I'm going to start inking in the rest of the dark areas in here. It's just my style. I always leave a little bit of a white edge around the thing right there. Okay. All right. So now the color of this truck we're gonna do is it's gonna be green like this. Sorry guys, I can't answer your questions because I'm the camera's above my head, so sorry about that. So I'm gonna nail all this thing down with a lighter green color, and so let's get this guy rocking here. Again, I'm going to shoot all this green real fast. I'm going to lay it on messy because I'm going to go back over it and I'm going to color it in a little cleaner. But I just wanted to kind of lay down my lines first. You guys can kind of see how I do this. Okay, just real clean like this, like that. Roughly. Guys going like that. Everybody kind of inks a little bit differently. When I do mine, I kind of do it fast, messy, and rough, real quick. But that's just my style. So basically what I want to do is just kind of get the rough idea about where my lines are going, where my highlights are going, things like that on the truck, and then I'll go back in and I'll fine tune everything in first. Okay. Okay. There we go. Roughly something like that. Okay. I'm going to put chrome rims on here, just like are on the SRT, so for that aspect. Okay. Let me grab the colors that I like to use for chrome. I'm going to hit this right here. Okay. Putting my center line in there. Basically putting where my spokes are hitting here. Roughly. Again, everything's real loose, real rough. Okay, where my lights are, I'm going to go ahead and lighten those guys in there as well. I'm going to use a lighter gray on that. I've got a 114, but I'm going to go to a 109 for my lights. just to kind of rough in where things are at first. And this kind of helps you when I'm laying out my my spokes on this. So it allows me to kind of be messy, but still, because I'm using the right color, define where everything's coming in like this. Okay, like that. I'm gonna put a shadow over the top of that. Same thing over there. I think this is just an all black. I'm just going to basically darken this thing in like that right now. Now the inside of what I'm going to do is in here, this is going to be black as well. And so just for the sake of, I'm going to darken it all in. We're going to go back in and we're going to make this, we're going to put a chrome grill in there. So I'll show you how to do that, guys, with a white pen as soon as I'm done. But I'm basically just drawing my outline shapes. So if you think about it, when you're doing cartooning, especially if you're going rough and you're not going detailed, you want to look at your negative shapes. So within this grill, there's a negative shape here. And so then I'm going to take this negative shape and I'm going to then color that in. And anything that you do dark is going to make that image recede. So this is heavy black, obviously, 100% opaque, rather than using like a cool gray or a 1/16 gray. So this basically is going to make everything here go back. Okay, there we go. The tough thing is with using black, unless you can easily mess it up if you're not careful. So it's always good just to kind of know where that shape's going. I mean, there is a way to fix it, but sometimes you have to kind of just be a little creative if you're gonna fix it. If you throw them down a black color and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done it there. There is a way to fix it, but sometimes it's not exactly what you want. I wouldn't suggest using whiteout, but let me go get this buddy off. Locked up here. Now I decided to do it green instead of red because my red's running low on there. But this will kind of give you a rough idea. Again, on these rims, I'm using a 109, and so looking at what they look like from the picture, I'm gonna go ahead and just be really loose around here, and I want to capture what's going on in between the rims as well, because I am going to color those in, but I need to know a couple things before I ink in these dark spots in here. Dark, 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 dark is where that's going to be in there. So I just want to make sure that I'm all dialed in before I start inking this guy in. There we go. I'm looking at how these rims are set up and how they're functioning like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so it's here. So my main guy, okay, so that and that is a rim, 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 that and that, okay. So, same thing, I figured it out, that. So basically it's kind of like I already drew in my 5-spoke, so I kind of have a rough idea about what's going on here, but I just kind of roughed it in like that so you can kind of see.
Okay, I'll just do
so from there, I've basically kind of got this thing sort of roughed in. Then I'm going to hit a couple things where I know that there's blinkers and lights and whatnot. So I'm going to just hit this real rough like this. There we go. Again, with my lights down here, I'm going to go ahead and just for the sake of reflections and whatnot, just it's easier. I'm really rough on these. Put the lights in like that. Again, I could put something in like that, draw those guys in like this. There we go, something like that. Now this is gonna go like that. Just rough marker in that in a minute. Okay, now I'm ready to come in with, originally I hit this with a lighter green. Now I'm going to come in then with my darker green. And what my darker green is going to do is it's going to basically give me where my shadow's coming. So I'm having light that's reflecting off the top here. Now I'm going to hit it with a darker green. So this darker green is really going to make this thing start coming alive here. And again, I'm still going to be really loose with everything because I'm going to go over again with this darker green so everything pops out still. Kind of something like that. I know there's going to be a stripe that comes down here, so I'm going to kind of go light on this. Again, when I add my darks in here, it's really going to make everything in here pop out, especially on the around where the details are on this truck. But again, you kind of want to layer your colors in like that. Just layer it down over the top, and then when we go back in and darken it in, it's really gonna stand out. Because these are Prismacolor design markers, and these pens are really meant for layering. You know, you layer one down over the top, it's going to look a little darker. It'll dry, it'll go on dark, but then it lightens up, and so you just kind of get used to it of how it works. Something like that. Can you see if I darken that up, how that looks, kind of opens that up like that? Now I want to trace the outside of where I know this grill is here, because then that's going to help me define where I can put my, I can make it look more three-dimensional. Like that. Like there's going to be an inside there that you're going to see. To that. See that I'm just kind of layering that in there like that. Going darker in here as well. Something like that. Okay, so basically that's roughed in, and then I can go back over it later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside with these spokes here, and I'm going to start drawing the inside shapes. Those inside shapes are going to help define what's going on here within this truck. Remember, I talked about negative shapes. That's what you want to look for when you're doing these things, is the negative shapes. Okay. It's a good idea when you're looking at drawing vehicles. Try to do that. Try to find the darker objects inside there, and then practice just drawing those, because those are going to start, your eye will start putting the pieces together. even though it's really undetailed right now, your eye is going to be putting these pieces together and kind of assembling, oh yeah, that's a rim there, oh yeah, there's spokes there, or you know, whatever. But it's just a quick way to do this. Again, what I like to do with my style is, because this is overlapping, I'm going to go ahead and draw a dark shadow over the top. Draw this down like this. This is going to basically make that tire recede and that rim recede back behind. Okay. Darken that up like that. Okay. Well, again, when I'm using my colors, I also like to take these darker colors, these grays, and I use those as kind of acting as blacks sometimes, because I'll go back in and they can kind of act as shadows. So I'll explain to here what I'm doing here. Let me get this guy on here. So this is going to come over the top. It's going to look dark, but that's okay, because what I want to do is this will dry a little lighter. Okay, so sometimes it does go on a little dark, and that's the thing, is don't be afraid of that. As soon as you get the hang of these pens, it'll look like, oh man, you really went on dark, or maybe you ruined it or went too dark. But watch, when I'm done with this thing, I'm going to probably go over this thing again with another color and darken it up. So I'm using 114 now. Okay, 114. Again, wherever my shadows are going to be here. Again, and now looking at inside of these rims, I look at where the inside is. So I know my inside's here, here, and then when I'm looking at it, I'm going to see that. Okay, I'm going to see, just seeing where the edges are going to be on this thing. There we go. Okay. Now within these pens, you also have a thick and a thin. You could use that if you wanted to. If you wanted just to fine tune stuff, to do really sharp lines and sharp points. I'm not so much concerned about that, because I'm gonna I'll go back in and do some tweaks on it as well. But this is just for kind of like a rough demonstration to show you guys what's going on. Again, I took some liberties with this truck, so those of you guys who know somebody who has an SRT, you're going to see some variations within this truck that I've taken the liberty to do. So changing up the front end a little bit and things like that, but for the most part, it looks pretty close. I mean, the goal when you're doing it, just like if you were going to do a face, a caricature of a face, you would kind of want to nail that down. You'd want to nail down the specific features of it, and then go from there. There we go. So it's got that killer hood scoop on the front, which we're going to emphasize. Then what I'm going to do is, it does have a black, obviously this mirror goes like this, so what we're going to do on that is I'm just going to make it all black, and then I'm going to take it in and I'm going to outline it in white. And that'll actually make that guy stand out. I'm going to put the window rubber around here like this. Like that. We've got the same thing going on right here. There we go. Something like that. Now again, remember I said that 114 is going to lighten up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shadow from the top, and I'm going to go like this. I'm going to take it and I'm going to pull it out like this, to act as a light source. Okay, so it looks like we're getting a light source coming off that window. Okay, roughly, it's pretty good. Okay, this guy pulls underneath here like this. Now inside here I've got my shadows. So what I want to do is I want to pull the inside of this nose like that, and the shadow's pulling up like that. So understand how now it's starting to look a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay. Just little tricks you can do to kind of help out as you're drawing it. But I like doing the marker thing, because the marker thing really lends itself to I mean, they're square. They're kind of square, so you can actually do a three-dimensional object a little bit easier. than if you, let's say you just had to draw it in yourself, you know, guess. But I'm kind of sold on that. I really do like those. So again, we're gonna have this scoop here kind of come up like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and go darker. I'm going darker on all the spots that are gonna be darker. Going over this green again so it stands out, so it kind of builds up here. You can see that okay? Again, sorry I'm not answering any questions. I've got the camera's above my head so I can't see what's going on. Again, fading that into that green. There we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is on these rims, I'll show you something. I've got my darks set inside here. Now I'm going to take this PM14 and kind of go on the inside where I know this rim's going. So going like this to kind of add a little shadow to it, like this. A little dimension as well. Again, you could go on the outside of it. Add that, a little bit of you know, kind of flare. Now basically I've kind of roughed in everything that I feel pretty comfortable with. Now I'm going to basically take my Sharpie marker and I'm going to start detailing in the areas that I really want to stand out. So, and this black marker is basically like adding eyeshadow, I guess, if you would. It's going to really make everything then pop out. This is where I can start fine-tuning all these lines and really making sense of what I'm doing here. There we go. Again, just taking a lot of liberty with drawing this stuff in, because then when I come back in and I add my white highlights, I can go and touch those things up and make them look even better. That's a fun thing about adding the opaque white over the top of this, is it's really going to make that thing come alive. Roughly something like that. So I'm thinking this guy's going to drop down like that. I'm going to put this. Again, I could accent my lines here if I wanted to. Kind of adds a little bit of a I don't know, dimension, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Okay, roughly that's kind of what I want to do in there. So now on these, I'll start adding my lug bolts on here. Then I'm going to start adding the detail and the fine-tuning these rims. So on these rims, they're going to come to a point like this. then they're going to break off like that. So they're not going to go all the way to the edge, so I have to kind of figure that out and play that little game. And what I want to do here, if I want to have a cap or something on here, again, I can do that, however that's going to look. Okay, roughly something like that. It's going to have something underneath it. Now again, when I do my rims, I'm really kind of loose and rough in there until I add all my detail at the end. So I'll probably post a time lapse of this one as well on my YouTube channel. There you go, roughly something like that. Okay. The bed of the truck, it's going to come down like this. It's going to roll like that. Okay, this guy does have a, I did not put on here the door handle, so let me do that. Door handle's going to go about right like that. Okay. There we go. Probably rough something like that. Alright, what do you guys think so far? Put my tread on here like this. Like that. Bring that closer in. Again, I could always shade down these areas here. Okay, roughly something like that. Alright, I'm kicking my ground. I'll go over that again later here. And then what I want to do is I want to take my black marker and I'm going to write in the word Dodge here. So I'm going to have a little fun with this. It's kind of my style. I like to have a little fun with the letters. Again, I'm not going to touch the truck because I really want that to stand out. This one, I want to basically go like this. To tackle that G. Right. Let me go a little darker. My black pen is about dead here, so sorry about that. I'm just going to clean everything up a little bit in here. Make it look a little. There we go. basically as soon as I've got my shape down like that, then I'm going to take my green pen that I was using, and I'm going to outline my, sorry, let me tweak some things in here. There we go, something like that. Just go around this and just to add a little bit of a glow to it. Take a darker color, add a lighter color to the back. It'll add a little bit of a glow to your letters, just make your letters stand out a little bit more. It's just a quick trick. I'm gonna touch, I'll show you something here. I'm gonna touch this truck right in here, but I'm gonna show you with a white pen what you can do if you draw on it and you want it to still stand out, because you really need an outline, a white outline to separate your vehicle from a darker line. And so I'll show you what I'm doing with that. Again, I'm gonna go over again with this pen here, because I want this line, the shadow line, to really be a little darker and be a little bit more defined. So again, I'm going to go heavy and kind of lighten it out like that. And I can take my pen, rough in some lines here, put in some rough shadows and things like that. I can go back over it, touch that up a little bit later here. Okay, now I'm ready to tackle this thing with my white pen here. So my white pen, I'm going to basically start hitting the spots where I know I want highlights on this truck. Okay? Anywhere where I see a spot, say it's green, darker green area. I'm going to kind of hit like that. Even on these rims. Now this is real important. This is one of the key things in here. If you're going to be adding these highlights to these rims, it's important you need to have a real dark spot, because that highlight's not going to show up on a lighter area. So if I'm going to be adding some highlights in here, I want to make sure that the spots down here are going to be dark. It'll make those highlights stand out a lot more. Okay. So even if you wanted to go like this, trace your rims or your spokes like this, because as soon as I hit them with that white, it's going to make them pop. And we're going to give them some shimmer and some shine and some glow to it as well. Okay, so roughly I've got, oh, I forgot to do that on these two. All right, let me take these lights and add a little bit of shadow on here as well. There we go. Something like that. Okay. So what I wanted to do, guys, for this inside of here to show you a couple things to make some things pop out. To make this tire pop out from the rest of your car, you're going to want to outline it like this. Not on the black, but just to the right of it. That's going to make that tire stand out. Same thing, you could do that with here. Anywhere where this thing touches, you want to basically kind of give it so it stands away from that car a little bit. Now on this SRT, it does have a grill, and so with the grill, I'm going to use a lighter pen, a lighter white pen, and what I can do with that is I can kind of add little sparkles. Now notice how that stands out so much easier to see on that. And that's what I mean. You have a darker color here. I can start adding some highlights to these rims like this. Okay, certain spots in here where I want to shine, where this, let's say sun flares are, or sunspots, whatever they're called. And I'm going to go like this. So there we go. There's some spots like that. Okay, now this is where I start taking my white pen and having a lot of liberty with this. So on this drawing and on this truck, I'm gonna do this. So okay, again, I can take this and I can add some white, some shimmer in there. Okay. All right, so what I wanted to do with this, I've got a ram symbol here. What I wanted to do with this is I want to basically draw this grill inside of here like this. There we go, something like that. Basically, that's just a cool little effect with that white opaque pen to this grill. It does some cool things to it. Something like that. So just makes it look a lot meaner. Makes it look pretty cool. I kind of like it. Again, and then I'm going to start going through it. Because these are dark areas in here, I can go through and I can add highlights to certain areas. I can add my sparkles or my sun highlights on some of these spots here. Again, where the light comes down. Again, if I wanted to, I could, for this intake right here, I could actually turn that into a grill as well, you know, so might as well. Let me just try it and see what happens. Because if I don't like it, and I don't think it looks good, I'm just going to go over with my black pen and it'll disappear. So I kind of think it looks pretty cool like that. Okay, then again, I'm going to add a highlight down here like this. Anywhere where I've got shine and, you know, whatever, I'm just going to kind of go along like that. Trace and start adding down some white. Some highlights. Now inside, this is interesting. Inside here, I will not trace the black line, but I'll just go next to it because I want to really make that intake on top stand out. So that's kind of another trick to do. Same thing, if I'm going to trace something white here, I won't trace over the black line, I'll go just to the right of it, which will make that image stand out as well. It'll separate that, that black line. That makes sense like that. Okay, now I'm going to draw in, finish up, same thing, where my rim goes. I'm going to put some tread on here, connecting all these pieces like that. Okay, something like that. Got some sparkles in here. Again, with these rims, there's a lot of freedom you have to drawing in here. With me, I like to be really rough and loose in here because I don't know that you need to put in all that detail. There's a lot of detail you could put in there, but I like to leave it open because your imagination can fill in the blanks. And especially if I'm doing a drawing for somebody, I like to get them done quick, but it's my style to kind of leave it a little messy like that. That's just how I do it. So I'm just going to add a little bit of sparkle on these guys, make them stand out a little bit, like that. Again, do that roughly. Now this is kind of customary to what I like to do too. I'll take my 114, I'll draw a shadow that runs down like this, basically outlining what's going on here with this mirror. Just doing it as simple like that. Okay. Okay, and then on the Dodge part here, I'm going to basically add a couple just highlights in here like this. Again, I'm hitting all the highlights that are to the top and to the left of the inside of this thing, so it all looks consistent. Then I can go back over with my thinner pen, take where these dots are because they're on a darker surface, and if I add a little bit of sparkle to them like this, it'll make it stand out. It'll add a little bit of just interesting, make it a little more interesting. So that's pretty much it, guys. Oh yeah, one more thing. Again, where I touched here and I didn't want to touch, I would take a white pen. I could always go along that way, like that, and shorten down that black, so it didn't look so heavy on there. So pretty much. And again, let me outline this guy like this. It's kind of my style. I like to take that. I'm just going to write my name right here. There we have it. So now there you go. There's a Dodge SRT10.